There are several popular Git branching models that teams and organizations commonly use. Each model has its own strengths and weaknesses, and the choice of branching model often depends on the specific needs and the workflow of the team. Here are some of the commonly used Git branching models. The first one is centralized workflow. This is very basic and is used for very nuclear teams where we only have a single branch like main or master, and every developer commits to that branch directly. After that, we have a different branching model which is feature branching workflow. This is an extension to the centralized workflow. Here, apart from the main branch, we have our feature branches dedicated to each particular feature. We do the commits on our feature branches, and once our features are ready, we merge back those features to the main branch. After that, we have our Git flow. Git flow is an extension to this feature branching workflow. Here we have multiple active branches like master, develop, and then we have some supporting branches for managing our release named as release branches. And again, we have similar feature branches. So this is quite complex but is very easy in maintaining some planned releases. After that, we have GitHub flow. This is similar to the feature branch workflow, but it is very simplified. After that, we have release flow. This is commonly used in the products where we have to maintain more than one active releases, like in case of softwares which are offered to the customers directly. So for example, let's say if you are developing a Windows OS, then you have to support multiple releases in parallel. So in these kind of products, release flow is basically used. After release flow, we have our forking workflow. In this, we usually create a separate repo out of the current repo, and we do the development in the separate repo altogether. And once the changes are done, we can merge back the changes via pull requests from one repository to another. This is very common in open source projects. While there are various branching models to choose from, there isn't a one size fits all solution. The choice of branching model depends on several factors, including the nature of project, team size, release cycle, and the collaboration requirements. Different projects may benefit from different branching strategies. So here are some considerations while deciding your branching model. So as I mentioned, centralized workflow is suitable for very small teams, let's say 2 to 3 member team, and when you have to develop very rapidly. This will lack the feature isolation because everyone is developing in the same branch. Now the feature branch workflow provides isolation for different features or tasks. It is well suited for projects with a moderate level of complexity. Now for Git flow, this is suitable for projects with scheduled releases and need for a formalized release process. It may perceive as overly complex for small projects. After that, we have GitHub flow. It is quite streamlined for continuous deliveries with a focus on simplicity. After that, we have our release flow. As I mentioned earlier also, it is well suited for the projects which are having multiple active releases in parallel, not suitable for cloud products. After that, we have our forking workflow, and this is very much used in open source project nowadays. Now, if you are the architect and you have given the responsibility to decide the branching model for your organization, what you should do? Should you design a branching model which can fit in all kind of applications in your organization, or should you use different branching models for different kind of products? So as I mentioned earlier also, there isn't a branching model which can fit into all use cases. So similarly, depending on the nature of applications, you should have multiple branching models in place for a single organization as well. So for example, let's say if you have cloud products, you should go for Git flow. And let's say if you have some library kind of things where there can be multiple active releases in parallel, then you should go for release branch workflow. Deciding a branching model will not only depend on the team size and nature of project. It will also depend on various other things. So let's see what are the things which we should keep in mind while designing the branching model. The first thing is we should think how new features will get deployed. So you should always keep that in mind depending on your branching model at what particular stage your new feature will get deployed. After that, you should also keep in mind how your features or how your code will get propagated across different environments. Your branching model should support that. You should also think at what stage of your branching model your code will get deployed to production. And once the code is deployed, there can be a case of doing a hotfix. So your branching model should also support a way to do a hotfix. And lastly, how to do a rollback. So you should not have a branching model which does not have a rollback capability. You should always have something in your branching model which allows you to do a seamless rollback. After having all those points considered while designing your branching model, you should always think how your branching model will get integrated with CI/CD so that your automated releases can be deployed. Now, here are a few things which we should definitely avoid while designing a branching model. So first thing will be, don't tie your branches directly to the environments. What do I mean by that? So you should not have your branches directly linked with your environments. So let's say I have seen cases where guys usually use release branches to deploy on their staging environments, the main branches to deploy on their production environments, and then their feature branches to deploy on their lower environments, let's say dev or QA environments, right? So you should not do that, because what will happen if you will do that, you are giving your team the flexibility to bypass your branching model. So once they know they can deploy using release branch directly on the staging environment, what they will do, they will start doing development on the release branch directly. And if you don't have proper controls in place, your branching model will get compromised. So that is one thing which you should not do. I will tell you also how you can avoid that in the later section. The next thing is, don't have too many active branches. Active branch is something which you will retain for a longer term. So let's say your main branches, your release branches, in some cases we have a develop branch. So these are all your active branches. So don't have too many active branches because it will overly complicate your branching model. You should always try to minimize the number of active branches so that your developers should always know which branch has the latest code, which branch has the code which is deployed on production or maybe in any different environment. So it will be very easier for them to fork out a new branch for doing any feature development or a bug fix. And keeping all those active branches in sync is very important. So lesser the number of active branches, easier is to keep them in sync. The next thing is not linking your branching model with your CI/CD solution. Branching model is a theoretical thing, right? The traditional tools like GitHub, Bitbucket or GitLab, they will provide you some control to prevent your branching model from getting compromised. Linking your branching model with the CI/CD solution will open multiple dimensions for you, because in CI/CD solution you will get the full scripting control using which you can implement any kind of check. You can check for the branch name, you can check for the Jira ticket ID which is there, you can check like what is the commit message, you can check what is the last update on Jira, or you can implement any kind of thing which you wanted to implement. So always do link your branching model with the CI/CD solution. That will give you a control so that you can prevent your branching model from being compromised. Next thing is, you should try to avoid manual CI/CD triggers. What do I mean by that? So one way is like you should have some branching model in place, and then developers will go to Jenkins, select their desired branch, and they will do a build. The other way is have your branching model in place, have a proper workflow, and based on various events like pull request created or pull request merged or maybe some commit message, based on those events your CI/CD will automatically get triggered, and based on the type of pull request created or the base, or based on the type of branch from which is created, your CI/CD will automatically decide what it has to do with the build. So always try to do a automated CI/CD when you have a branching model in place. Try to avoid these manual triggers, because with these manual triggers you are giving a option to the developers to bypass your branching model in some way. And if they have a automated CI/CD in place, whenever they will try to bypass the branching model, their CI/CD will not kick in properly. So that automated thing is somehow enforcing the developers to use the branching model in a proper way. So for this video I will keep the things here only. In the next video I'll be explaining any two branching models in detail, like how your branching model will look like, how a developer journey will look like on top of that, how he will do the feature development, how the code will get propagated to different environments, step by step in detail. So do let me know in the comment section which branching model you wanted to know about. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good day.